Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. 6 things we learned from Aston Villa 0, Chelsea 2. I've been sick the past few days, like the past 4 or 5 days or something. Super tired, had a cold, blocked up, everything. Don't know exactly what it is, but you can still hear it in my voice. So the video's late, I know. It is like an ongoing theme with the channel that sometimes things are late. Usually it's because I go and watch it with my friends in a pub, but this time I've just not been feeling good. This was one of the most fascinating Chelsea 2-0 wins that I can remember, because there were performances under Tuchel. Not that I want this theme to continue with comparison between a Tuchel bad performance and a Graham Potter bad performance, and also know that there is a lot of people who will say it doesn't matter how well we played as long as we win. There is an element that I believe behind that is absolutely true. You can't play to the best of your ability, the best of your potential every single game. But what I find fascinating about the win against Aston Villa was that there were two smashing all-round world-class performances and then a couple of other good ones, but mostly I was confused. I don't know how we managed to hold on without conceding a goal, another clean sheet for Kepa, 4 in a row under Graham Potter, and our 5th successive victory. Chelsea weren't good in this game. Some players were absolutely beyond good, outstanding, outrageous at times, from Kepa and Mason Mount. We're going to talk a little bit about why I sit here and say it's confusing. It is brilliant to be able to get excited about performances like this that lead to results that end up with Thomas Tuchel now being wanted as Aston Villa's manager. Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard. Gerrard, first one to be sacked. Lampard, the best Premier League midfielder. It's 2-0 to Super Frank. But we begin with the simply sublime blue box performance from Kepa Arrizabalaga. Now, you guys will know, there have been many times where I talk about Mendy, I talk about Kepa, and I look at Kepa and I think, as much as there have been some moments that really do go down as like 72 million wasted, there are also moments, if you go on your YouTube compilations or if you've got a good Chelsea football memory, there have also been moments where Kepa has been outstanding in games of football. You remember the double save in the Super Cup against Liverpool, the penalty saves against Frankfurt in the Europa League semi-final. Kepa has pulled up with some clutch moments for Chelsea, but that performance at Aston Villa, in the first half alone, if it wasn't for the brilliance of Kepa, Chelsea could have realistically been 4 or 5-1 down in that game, because Aston Villa were peppering our defence. Defensively, yes, we keep a clean sheet. Yes, we move from it and we're like, yeah, it's positive. We're not conceding goals. But at the same time, there were frailties that I will go into a bit later on in the 6 things we learned. But Kepa, some of those saves will be talked about for years. The one from Danny Ings, where he's literally right underneath the crossbar. Danny Ings is less than 6 yards away from the goal, and somehow Kepa manages to divert the ball over the crossbar. It's phenomenal. He was absolutely brilliant, and it wasn't just the saves that he makes as a shot stopper. We've seen in the past Kepa's made flying saves. There have also been moments in the past where Kepa's beaten from outside the box and he kind of leads with his wrong hand. But when a goalkeeper's playing with confidence, and I think confidence has been like the elephant in the room for Kepa since the days under Maurizio Sarri, where he's never been able to sustain a good run of form without making a high-profile mistake or without not walking off the field in a Carabao Cup final, which then leads to everybody talking about it, and blame can go on whoever you want it to go on when there is that standout moment in a game. But the way Kepa's come in, taken over from Mendy, who, let's be honest, as much as, again, don't want to be too comparative in all of my analysis when it comes to Chelsea, but Mendy was in a decline of form. He gets injured, then Kepa comes in, and you've always got it in the back of your mind thinking, well, maybe because Chelsea have spent so much money on this guy, the move to Napoli in the summer, which didn't materialise, Kepa was more than happy to stay at Chelsea. You've got to take the imaginary hat off to Kepa Arrizabalaga and say you've waited for your opportunity. Now you've grabbed it with both hands. I don't see how Edouard Mendy gets back in the team anytime soon. It's been phenomenal from Kepa in recent games. Even when he's come in to try and collect crosses, and in the past we've seen him kind of flap at punches, he's getting all of those little things right as well. Distribution, absolutely 10x what it's ever been before. It's the best performance I've ever seen from Kepa in a Chelsea shirt. It could have also been a blue box in box number 2, but I've kept it at green because I only ever want to keep one blue box in a video. Mason Mount is obviously box number 2. The man was imperious against Aston Villa at the weekend. The first goal is a stroke of luck from his England teammate Tyrone Mings, who we don't often see make this kind of level of high-profile mistake, but Aston Villa have had it in them. Under Gerrard, they have been very, very average at best in the best times they've performed this season. But Mason Mount keeps an eye on it. It's a beautiful finish, tucks it in, and then the second one, you've got some people that will never want to see Mason Mount succeed. Who will tell you that Martinez has to save that. I do agree that maybe he could have done better. I do think when you look at the trajectory of the ball, his starting position, the fact there's no deflection in there, you can argue that, okay, maybe a top-class Premier League keeper should be doing a bit more to try and keep that one out. But the technique from Mason Mount with that free kick is the exact reason why it's gone in. Sometimes you hit these kind of knuckleball-esque free kicks and you think, well, if it dips too late, then it looks like a good chance and the technique looks cool, but then inevitably it didn't go in. So traditionally we've seen free kicks bent around walls, and normally from that kind of position you'd think David Beckham against Greece, it's going to go top left-hand corner, but no. It dips at the last minute and bamboozles Martinez in the Aston Villa goal. So for Chelsea to be 2-0 up at that moment, the 64th minute I think is when Mount scored that second goal, I was bewildered. I was tired, still not feeling good. I was in bed watching the game. That's exactly why there's no video straight after, because I was in bed, not feeling good. But I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't know how we've got away with this here. Mason Mount, at the beginning of the season, there were questions. I, for one, said, yes, maybe he should be dropped from the starting 11. The reason I would have dropped him from the starting 11 is because Chelsea have got a very expensive squad. There are a squad of players here that want to be playing, that are high profile enough to be able to be playing top level football week on week, game by game. But Mason Mount kept his place. He's been one of the only players who's played every game since Graham Potter came in, and we are now seeing the fruits of that decision to not drop a player when we know how good he is just because he's a little bit out of form, wasn't delivering goals, wasn't delivering assists. It's now 4 in the last 2 for Mount, 2 assists and then 2 goals. I think he was absolutely phenomenal. Moving into box number 3, it's the final green of the video because I want to kind of go into the more negatives about the style towards the second half of this video, but Thiago Silva is the green. Trevor Chalobah, I thought in the first half did well. I think there were moments when Koulibaly came in where he did well. Cucurella, also not entirely sure what's going on with him at the moment, but left centre-back, it's not his favoured role. We'll talk about him later, but Thiago Silva once more. Even though Chelsea were at 6s and 7s at the back and heavily relied on Kepa, Thiago Silva was once again the standout defender in a game where Chelsea weren't looking strong defensively. And it's why there's so many you're trying to just creep around the point in this video from me, because as much as it's another clean sheet, that's what the history books will remember. There is concerns for me about the way that we defended in this game, the way that we allowed Aston Villa to get so many attempts in on goal. But Thiago Silva was, in a clean sheet performance, the standout defender, in my opinion. Box number 4 is for Aubameyang. It's a yellow. Aubameyang goes off, and it's probably the least we've seen him do in a Chelsea shirt so far. I really have liked so far from Aubameyang how he drops deep, comes to get the ball, and then he kind of offloads it and then makes another run. So what that does is it drags the defenders out because he's leaving the box. As a striker, you'd obviously think he's going to stay around the box, but his movement's been great. But in this game, he just really struggled to impose himself in anything. So he comes off, and then I think as the second half progressed, Chelsea looked better. And I think that is the thing at the moment under Potter, where we know from what we saw from his time at Brighton that there is an attractive style of football that is pending still at Chelsea. There have been moments where we've looked very, very good. We're winning football matches, which is the most important thing. And again, the history books will favour Chelsea for scoring 2 and conceding 0 in this game. Box number 5 is a yellow for Cucurella, who had a torrid first half. I think both him and Chilwell looked absolutely lost in the first half in particular. And I think at the moment, We are seeing dips in and out of 4 at the back, 3 at the back, and I think it is confusing. And if we move into box number 6, it's a red box for injuries because the shape and the way that we're playing and building up and defending and cohesively keeping the ball, I think it's down to injuries. Kante and Reece James, if we played that game against Villa and the way Villa have been playing, we could have won that 6-0 if we had Reece James and N'Golo Kante. Because what these two players do, particularly Reece James from recent times, Chelsea are so much more controlled when both sides of the pitch are fully balanced. Reece James brings that balance. Kante brings that defence-minded balance in the middle. Chelsea could not control this game. As much as it's brilliant that we managed to win 2-0, from the 6 boxes you see on the screen, Aubameyang and Cucurella were, in my opinion, the most questionable performers from what I thought was a poor performance, but get the job done, brilliant. But box number 6, injuries. At the moment, with all of this fixture congestion, with the history of Chelsea injuries at this very point in the season, I'm so concerned. We've seen it now for years. Around this late to early November time, we get injuries, and it's always the key players. Reece James is going to be out. He might even miss the World Cup. I think realistically he won't get to the World Cup from what we're hearing so far. It is concerning, and I do think that this is one we get away with. We've got Brentford tomorrow night in the Premier League. There'll be a preview out for that match tomorrow, but it is worrying for me that the balance of play is so heavily reliant on certain players. And with Reece going to be out for a few weeks, a couple of months, I just hope that we don't come unstuck. And I hope that this brilliant, brilliant run that we're on right now, since Graham Potter took over, is going to continue. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy this 6 Things We Learned episode, be sure to hit the like button. I'm going to keep on nursing my health and make sure that I'm fit enough and healthy enough to be able to keep making videos for you guys day by day. Thank you guys so much. Come on, you Blues.